Okay, this is me just clearing the deck. Alright, so this is hopefully the last San Diego Comic-Con, aside from the Doctor Who panel, video that I'm going to be doing. Because there were a number of other things that were talked about, revealed, or shown at Comic-Con that I do want to say something about, but I don't want to devote whole videos to. So this is basically the miscellaneous pile. So I'm just going down a list of the stuff that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. Buffy the Vampire Slayer apparently getting a reboot, and now this is not the first attempt to reboot this. The thing has been talked about being rebooted a number of times. This is noteworthy for, I feel, one reason, but there's another thing that people are talking about that I'll mention. I'll get to that. So the reason I feel it's noteworthy is this time they're actually involving Joss Whedon, because the last time there was talk of rebooting it, I believe they were talking about as a film franchise. They were not going to include Joss Whedon in any way, shape, or form. They're basically just going to bank on the name. This time he is involved. I believe he's going to be set up as an executive producer. He's probably not going to be show running this thing, or at least I didn't see that that was the plan or the intention. But having him in some way involved, or at least him signing off on it, to me makes it more worthwhile, and it's going to pique the interest of a lot of fans a lot more than just the name does, because it's one of those cases where his touch was that brand in many ways. So doing it completely in his absence doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, the change that I actually don't think is even that worth talking about, but apparently other people do, is that the intention is to have a black actress play Buffy. Cool. Fine. Because Buffy is a character that I feel her background as a Caucasian is not especially overly ingrained in her character, and not really something that came up a ton. So I feel that you can add that as an element, and it should not upend the character in any severe way. And if you dig into it, into what it would have meant, the way this could be interesting is, especially if they set it in high school again, which is what I hope they'll do, because normally when, something was originally set in high school, let's reboot it. Well, we'll have them as adults. Well, we had her as adults too. The show ran for 7 years. So if they're rebooting it and setting it in high school again, which is what I think they should do, I think updating the timeline to what high schools are like today and having the experience of a black student as opposed to a white one could be an interesting new thing to add into that, but it doesn't require a massive change to the overall dynamic or shape or personality of the character if they don't want to do that. So I'm on board for that. Next up, there was a new trailer for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Holy God, do I hate saying that title. But it is significantly better than the previous trailer. Like, holy cow, it is leagues better. It is way more interesting. It is way more intriguing. I feel like I got a better sense of who Newt Scamander is as a person from that, 15-second clip of him as a student and finding out that his greatest fear when he's facing a Bogart was working a desk job. I feel like in that quick flashback, I understood him so much better than I did after the entirety of the first movie. So that is all upticking. And there is one moment that I know other people have noticed, and I'm going to acknowledge here, that I was surprised to see and gives me a flicker of hope. Now, there's also cynicism attached to that, but again, I'll try and keep this short. So, I have gone on the record multiple times as being very upset with the statements from both J.K. Rowling and David Yates that Dumbledore's status as a gay man, which Rowling continues to say is the case, would not be in some way confirmed in this film, even though both he and the object of his affection, Grindelwald, played by Johnny Depp, are both in it. I'm on the record as being very upset when they said, no, we're not gonna really touch on and acknowledge that. Now, there's a scene in this that is Dumbledore in front of a mirror, and there is a looming figure of Grindelwald basically over his shoulder. Now, the shot is not tall enough for us to see the top of that mirror to know for certain, but if we assume that that mirror is the mirror of Erised, which you would know from the first Harry Potter book and film, that means that it is showing him what he most desires. And so if what he most desires is Grindelwald, that is at the very least a visual acknowledgement, if not a confirmation of his affections for him. Now, I'm not completely abandoning my cynicism, because it's the kind of shot that could be done so quickly that part of me wonders, did they add that in after the controversy? Or is like this going to be the full extent of it, but they're just still not going to make it any clearer than that? And if that's the case, I kind of wish they had said there will be some nods toward it, but we're not being blatant, which wasn't what they said. They said they were just not going to do it, which is what leads me to believe I think this was a later add-on. Even if it was, it's a good add-on. This does not, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt to say this was always planned and they were just hiding it from us. Why would they hide that? All they did was stir up crap and get in trouble. So yeah, I don't buy that one at all. But the trailer's even setting that issue aside, it's nice to see that there may be some form of acknowledgement. And setting that aside, trailer way better. Way better than the first trailer that we got for this. So that was good, made me happy. What else have I got? American Horror Story, a show I have not talked about on this channel at all, but I have watched not all of, I think season 5, whatever one was Hotel. That was the last one that I saw. I've been meaning to get around to the others, but I haven't gotten to it. But I do like the show, and the new season has a title announced, and it's Apocalypse, and more specifically, it is confirmed that it's going to be picking up on threads left by seasons 1, which was very good, and season 3, which was not very good. So that gives me a very mixed feeling, but the dangling plot thread at the very end of the first season, now called the Murder House season, is the biggest thing that has been waiting to be picked back up on and dealt with. And I do have to wonder if finally tying off that loose end means that this might be the last season of the show. Maybe, maybe not. That's pure speculation on my part. I don't have much more to say about that, but I mean, it's always been an interesting show, and I do need to get back into it to see some of the more recent seasons, even though I've kind of heard mixed things about them. So, other than that, let's see. We got a release date for Iron Fist Season 2. It's September. I thought we were going to get Daredevil Season 3 before we got Iron Fist Season 2, but no. So, look. Fair's fair. Danny is working better as a character when he was in The Defenders and when he appeared in Luke Cage, i.e. he's better when he's not carrying the show. That said, he's still not great. He's getting better, but he's still not great. Big acknowledgement, Scott Buck is not running this season. Scott Buck ran the first season. He ran the Inhumans. He's one of those guys who I think he must be able to deliver on time and under budget very consistently, because the quality of his work is such that I am stunned that he is still employed to make television. I'm flabbergasted by that. So he's not involved in this. However, the guy who is show running doesn't give me a lot of faith. This guy by the name of Raven Metzner, who started his career in Hollywood by writing the script for Elektra, the one with Jennifer Garner. And I don't really want to hold that against him, because it was a while ago, and I mean, it's how he got started. He would have just been jumping on whatever job he could get. Unfortunately, the stuff he's done since then has pretty much all been in TV and on shows I don't watch, so that's the only thing I've got to judge him on. But he's still better than Scott Buck, who I've watched actively ruin shows, including ones I used to love. Dexter. So, moving on from that. Star Wars, The Clone Wars. Getting basically a nice little tie-off season, which is cool. Now, I've never watched The Clone Wars. I've seen bits, I've seen pieces, I've seen clips. I never took the time to get into it. And that's not me being dismissive, like, it looks terrible. No, it looks pretty good. But I've just never had the time. And time these days is something I'm very short of. For those of you who don't realize, I have a full-time job in addition to this. So until such time as this is my living, I don't really have time for shows that I'm that far behind on. Or if I ever get to them, it's gonna be a slow slog to get through them. But I do think it's very cool, because I did know that there were plot threads that were stopped, because they ended that so that they could do Rebels instead, and they just left things to not be resolved. So I do like that that's happening. You know what it feels. You know what I expect it feels like for Clone Wars fans is similar to me, because I really like Farscape and I loved it when it was airing. And when it was canceled, I was heartbroken. But there was enough of a push for it that it got basically a miniseries to tie up its last few things. And I feel that this is probably a similar feeling that that Clone Wars fans are having. So I'm glad you get to have that, and I'm glad you're going to get a nice completion. And it feels like, you know, in the wake of the meh response to Solo and the divisive response to The Last Jedi, it's looking like maybe Lucasfilm is going, you know what? Let's maybe we don't know best on everything. What were some things that the fans really like that we can kind of throw them a bone on? Oh, they really like the Clone Wars. You know what? Let's finish that. And while it might be, again, a cynical move to garner some goodwill from a fan base, it's a good cynical move. It's the right kind of cynical move, because there are people who are like, there's some people who get really hung up on motivations, like they're doing the right thing for the wrong reason. I'm like, look, that's not perfect, but if it's the right thing, it's the right thing. And if it's a good result, it's a good result. I can live with the fact that it's cynically motivated. So that's cool. And I've just got one last thing I want to say. Jamie Lee Curtis is friggin' awesome. If you did not hear this story, so there's the new Halloween movie coming out, which is a sequel to the first and is disregarding absolutely everything else. And Jamie Lee Curtis is back as Laurie Strode, and there was a Comic-Con panel, and she was at it. And there, during the question and answer session, there was a fan who came up, you know, to the microphone. If you've ever been to Comic-Con Q&A section, you know, you get in line, you get up to the microphone, you ask your question, they answer it. So there was a guy who came up to the microphone, and he credited the original Halloween and Jamie Lee Curtis's character with saving his life, because he was the victim of a home invasion by a man with a knife, and he was able to survive that. And he credited being able to draw on the strength that he saw her exhibit in that film as something that he was able to tap into, to remember, to center him, to help him get through a situation that he might otherwise have frozen up during and could have died. And upon being told this story, Jamie Lee Curtis did something that the people on these panels never do. She got up, came out from behind the table, came around, and she hugged this guy. She just hugged him. And for a while, and that kind of comforting, everything's okay hug. And it was awesome. And if you didn't already love Jamie Lee Curtis, you should. And if this is not enough to get you to love her, look up other stuff about her. She's really kind of awesome. So that's it. That's my wrap up for what was left from San Diego Comic-Con that isn't Doctor Who related. Because like I said, I got some more stuff coming out from that. I'm really looking forward to being caught up so I can leave this behind. So these things from Comic-Con, anything else from Comic-Con that I didn't talk about that you wish I did, whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know the stuff that you can do. Support me on Patreon's the big one. But, you know, whatever. Links for that and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's all down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.